Here's a composite household built from 50 years of research data, not one real family, one paycheck, a mortgage, 3 kids, a used sedan in the driveway. By the numbers, that household should have been struggling. By the early 2000s, researchers tracking family finances found the typical household was sending 2 paychecks out the door instead of 1. Combined, those 2 paychecks brought home about 75% more money than that 1 paycheck household did. And the researchers found something almost nobody expects. After the bills that can't be canceled, that 2-income household had less money left over than the 1-income household did. In the next 2 minutes, I will show you the receipts. Then Mechanism 2 will show you a bill that, in most states right now, costs more than college tuition. And Mechanism 3 explains one of the darkest statistics researchers ever pulled from bankruptcy filings, from 2001 cases, studied in depth. Why having a child was the single strongest predictor that a woman would end up bankrupt, not divorce. Children. Before the first mechanism, one ground rule. This video is not an opinion about whether anyone should work or whether a household should run on 1 income or 2. That is every family's own business, and it says nothing about the value of unpaid work at home either. This is arithmetic, a structural shift built quietly over 50 years in how far a paycheck actually stretches. Last video, I promised you this trap. Here is the machine. Mechanism 1, the bidding war. Here are the receipts I promised, from the research, not from thin air. Economists Elizabeth Warren and Amelia Warren Tyagi tracked family finances from the early 1970s to the early 2000s, adjusted to comparable dollars. In the early 70s, the typical one-earner family brought home about $39,000 a year in today's terms. By the early 2000s, the typical 2-earner family brought home about $68,000, 75% more money. So that family should have been drowning in extra cash. Then Warren and Tyagi subtracted the bills that can't be canceled, the mortgage, health insurance, the second car that gets the second earner to work, child care, and taxes on that second paycheck, which stacks on top of the first and often gets taxed at a higher rate than the first dollar earned. After those bills, the 70s family had about $17,800 left over for everything else. The 2-earner family in their study had about $17,000 less. Nearly all of the second paycheck vanished before anyone bought a single latte. Where did their research say it went? Mostly into one word: houses. Not bigger houses. The median home in their study grew from about 5.7 rooms to about 6.1, barely half a room. What changed is who you're bidding against. A house near a good public school isn't priced by what 1 income can pay anymore. It's priced by what 2 incomes can pay, because when lenders and housing markets started approving mortgages on both incomes, that second paycheck stopped being extra room to breathe and started being purchasing power the market could price against. Millions of families, all bidding for the same safe streets and decent schools, used the second paycheck to compete for the same limited homes. The result, their data pointed to. The second paycheck didn't buy those families an advantage over their neighbors. It didn't buy an advantage. It became the new minimum bid. And once the price is set by 2 incomes, the bills start behaving differently. That's Mechanism 2. Mechanism 2. The fixed cost ratchet. A ratchet is a tool that turns one way and locks. Here's the part their research surfaces that most people miss. In the 70s household Warren and Tyagi studied, spending was mostly cancelable: food, clothing, repairs, a vacation. In a bad month, that family could cut a big chunk of its spending by the end of the week. Roughly half their income was locked into fixed bills. In the 2000s household, it was around 3/4. Mortgage, insurance, car payments, daycare contracts, bills with your signature on them. Bills that don't care that you had a bad month. And no, their data says the difference isn't avocado toast. The book's actual finding is the opposite of the popular myth. The modern families they studied spent less, inflation adjusted, than the 70s family did. on clothing, on food, including restaurants, on furniture and appliances. Families got frugal on everything they could cancel, while the uncancelable bills ate the house. The clearest modern example is childcare. The cited national average cost of paid childcare is over $13,000 a year. In 38 states, that's more than in-state public college tuition. Read that again. The bill for a 4-year-old in most of the country outprices the bill for a college student. And unlike cancelable spending, you can't easily cut childcare in a bad month, because cutting it usually means cutting the second income that pays for everything else. The ratchet clicked. It doesn't click backwards on its own. But even the ratchet isn't the most dangerous part. The most dangerous part is what the one-income household in their study had, that the two-income household doesn't. Mechanism 3, the missing reserve. Every team keeps players on the bench, not because they play every game, but because someone will get injured. The one-earner household in Warren and Tyaggi's study had a player on the bench. If the working parent got sick or the job disappeared, there was a second adult who could step into paid work. Someone already doing real, uncompensated labor at home, who had the option to convert that labor into a paycheck when the family needed one. That option was the real financial cushion of the single paycheck household. Not the paycheck itself, the reserve. The two-income household in their study already had both adults in paid work. Every hour was already committed. Every dollar was already assigned to the ratchet. So when a layoff happened, there was no reserve left to send in. Income could only move one direction, down. The fixed bills don't. The household in their study wasn't twice as safe. Not twice as safe. Twice as exposed. Twice the earners a downturn could take, on top of a cost structure built, assuming both kept working. This is the mechanism behind the statistic from the hook. In the 2001 Consumer Bankruptcy Project data Warren and Tyaggi studied, researchers found that having a child had become the single strongest predictor that a woman would file for bankruptcy, stronger than divorce. More of the children in their study lived through a parent's bankruptcy filing than through a parent's divorce. Not because parents got reckless, because in the households they studied, the shock absorbers were gone by the time the shock arrived, and the pressure their research describes hasn't eased. If anything, two numbers from right now show it's still rising. Americans currently carry about $1.25 trillion in credit card debt, a record, and in recent surveys, over half of people carrying a balance say they borrowed for essentials, groceries, utilities, the uncancelable bills. The mechanism Warren and Tyaggi documented isn't just a 2003 book anymore. The pressure behind it is this year's story too. So here's a way to push back against it. You can't personally uninvent the bidding war, but one household deciding on purpose can refuse to feed the machine further. The rule is one sentence. Size a two-paycheck life to one paycheck's bills. 3 moves. Move 1. Cap every fixed bill, mortgage or rent, cars, insurance, contracts, inside one take-home paycheck if you can, and treat the bank's mortgage pre-approval as a ceiling, not a target. It's usually computed from both incomes, which means it's pricing you for the same bidding war Warren and Tyaggi describe. You're allowed to borrow less than you're approved for. Move 2. Give the second paycheck exactly one job, building wealth. First, it rebuilds the bench, a cash reserve sized to your fixed bills so you're not one income loss away from the ratchet breaking you. Then it flows into the boring autopilot from the last video, automatic index investing that runs without needing constant willpower. Do that, and the second income starts doing what people assume it always did, making the household richer, instead of just staying competitive in the bidding war. Move 3. If the ratchet already has you, aim at the ratchet, not the small stuff. You can't discount coupon your way out of a fixed cost problem. One housing decision or one paid-off car kept a few more years moves more than a long list of small daily sacrifices. Cancel one click of the ratchet, and that decision keeps paying you back every month on its own, without needing fresh discipline each time. That's the core of the escape. Bill size to one paycheck. Wealth built from the other. Fix the ratchet and stop blaming the lattes. The household in that opening picture never had to think hard about its own math. But the real advantage researchers found in that era wasn't the decade. It was a structure simple enough to see clearly. One income, a lot of flexible spending, and a reserve sitting on the bench. You just rebuilt versions of all three, on purpose, in 3 moves. Which leaves the next question. If you cap the bills and aim the second paycheck at wealth, how long before that money starts working as hard as you do? Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner, became famous for saying something blunt about the first milestone on that road and why it feels unfairly slow compared to what comes after it. Why the first $100,000 breaks the normal rules of building wealth. That's the next video. It's on your screen now. And tonight, one action. Add up your fixed bills and compare that total to one of your take-home paychecks. That single comparison will tell you which mechanism has the biggest grip on your household and which of the 3 moves to make first. If you want the whole system, subscribe. No motivation speeches. Just the mechanics of money explained so you can use them. This video is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Please consult a licensed financial professional before making financial decisions.